Welcome to the Quantum Business Briefs podcast, a production of the Quantum Franchise Group. This is your podcast for bringing the dream of business ownership to life. And now here's your host, William Huffine.
Well, hello, family. I'm William Huffine. I am your host today here on the Quantum Business Briefs podcast or vodcast if you're watching it on YouTube. I'm the founder of the Quantum Business Community and the president of Quantum Franchise Group. And this episode today is part of our series that we call Franchise Fridays, where we focus on one specific company in a specific industry that might just be the exact fit that you're looking for to make the dream of business ownership become a reality. So again, thank you for being here. Make yourself comfortable. We're going to go ahead and jump right into today's episode. So I'm sitting in my home office and I'm looking out my windows and it's pretty beautiful outside. The sun's shining, the leaves are changing. It's just a beautiful fall day, but my view is obscured by these blinds that are probably 30 years old, just cheap, nasty blinds from like Target or something. And I'm realizing, just how trashy they look. One of them is even broken and it's hanging loose. I'm actually kind of embarrassed to be sitting here telling you this, but it's a great segue into the conversation that I'm going to have today with Miss Hannah from a company called Gotcha Covered. And this is a franchise concept that you have probably never thought of as you've contemplated the possibility of becoming a franchise owner. And to be honest with you, until I sat in on a conference call with Hannah several weeks ago, it wasn't at the top of my list either. But I got to tell you, after that conversation and after noticing how nasty the blinds are in my home office, I have introduced probably a dozen or so people to this concept. And it is a real joy for me to be able to introduce you to Hannah and Gotcha Covered in this episode of Quantum Business Briefs. Hannah, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, William. I'm really excited to hang with you for the next half hour or so. And I just love working with you and your candidates. I'm really excited for this opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah, great. I really appreciate you being here. So we're going to kick things off by turning the mic over to you, Hannah, and letting you spend as much time as you would like introducing your brand, telling us all about the product, the service, and really what kind of sets you apart.
Sure. And hopefully you'll be our next customer, because 30 years is a long time to have the same exact blinds. Typically, we see people replace their window coverings every 7 to 10 on average. So you are definitely in need for an upgrade. But yeah, I'm Hannah Erlenbusch. I'm the Director of Franchise Development for Gotcha Covered. Personally, I've been with Gotcha Covered for 5 years, and we are a home service owner-operator model. We do everything for the interior of the window. So blinds, shutters, shades, drapery. We do window film. We're really big into the connected home. So connecting products to Google and Alexa, controlling them by voice or remote control. Majority of our revenue is generated on the residential side, but we do commercial as well. We have some large scale commercial accounts. We service all of the Verizon wireless stores west of the Mississippi. About 8 of our owners have contracts with Costco's as well. So there's a commercial division that our owners can leverage. We have started to offer some outside options too. So like windscreens or sunscreens or maybe those awnings for those outside patios as well. So a lot of opportunity, and we do everything for the interior of the window. We never want a customer to come to our owner and say, oh, you don't have what I'm looking for, I'm going to have to go somewhere else or compromise. We do everything they could ever want or need for the interior of their window. We're also a little different than some competitors. We're more of a premium provider. We're not really a budget provider. Now, that doesn't mean we don't have budget-friendly options. We definitely do. But what we do in terms of marketing and advertising and how we position our owners in the market is to become higher in demand on that higher end of the marketplace. That's where you're going to see those higher average transaction amounts and closing ratios.
Yeah, that's good. Tell us a little bit about the history of the company, when it started, when you began franchising, and give us a glimpse into the growth trend of your franchise units over the last few years.
Yeah, definitely. So we actually go way back into the 90s we started as a software development company for the window treatment industry. What we ended up doing was actually franchising around this technology in 2009. So Gotcha Covered was born in 2009. And we're at 165 owners now. Now, in the world of franchising, just in general, typically it's kind of a slow climb, right? From 0 to 50, you reach 50, things start to pick up, you get between 50 and 100. And then once you reach 100, you're considered like a plug and play brand, right? Your owners are happy, they've been around a while. they're starting to initiate their exit strategies where they're selling for a profit or maybe passing their businesses down to their children. So we've reached this point in our growth where we're starting to grow very rapidly. We have some trajectories to hit 40 new owners this year. That's our goal. So we're growing pretty rapidly, but we're at 165 right now.
Wow, that's amazing. So I'm going to throw you a curveball here. You were talking about your products earlier, and I was presenting you to a candidate a few weeks ago. And one of the things he asked me, I felt like I had a pretty good grasp on your product mix, but one of the things he asked me, I did not have the answer to. So I'm going to put you on the spot and see if you have the answer to it. Okay. He said, Bill, do you know if they have solar powered solutions? Where because I knew we had like you had the Google Home and all of that stuff, but he said, is there anything out there that is a solar powered solution where your motorized blinds or whatever, instead of drawing power from the house, they draw power from the sunlight?
Yes, so there are 3 ways to operate motorized options. You can hardwire it into the electrical system. It can be battery powered, and then there is a solar piece too. So yes, there are options within the motorization space. And it's actually really neat too. There's ways for you to like automate even when they open and close, depending on where the sun is in the sky and kind of, what the day looks like as well. So, but yeah, you can solar power motorized window treatments for sure. And we do that.
Now, see, I thought the guy was probably being a little far-fetched with that, but there we are. See, this is why I wanted to have you on the podcast.
Everything you could ever want or need, we got you covered.
I see what you did there. That's good. That's good. Thank you. Well, I want to shift gears here a little bit, and we're going to talk about something that a lot of people ask right at the beginning of their discovery calls with me, and we talk about this in their brand presentations, and that is your item 19. Now, this is where I typically in this podcast, I give a little bit of an educational moment for people who are unfamiliar with the world of franchising. So we're going to do that again. For those of you who have never really explored franchising before, one of the things that you're going to receive is a document called a franchise disclosure document. Every franchise system in the United States is required by the Federal Trade Commission to have a franchise disclosure document that they present to their candidates. Now, there's a section in that massive 250, 300 page document. There's a section in there called the item 19. And the item 19 is where you might find actual average financial performance for franchise owners already in the system from the previous year. Everybody wants to know, what's my ROI? How much money am I going to make? How fast am I going to make it? How fast am I going to recoup my investment? And there's 3 ways that we typically determine that in the franchise world. And the first way is through the item 19. Now, it's important to understand, as you're talking to franchisors and as you're talking to consultants and brokers like me, we are prohibited by the Federal Trade Commission from making you any kind of promises, hard projections, guarantees on financial performance. But franchise systems do have the option of providing that item 19. They're not required to provide it. They have the option to provide it. Some franchise systems will provide you with that information. Some don't. I always tend to lean in favor of the franchise companies that do provide that, because it does give us that window of transparency into your potential return on investment. So with that educational moment out of the way, I've invited Hannah to share with us a little bit about their item 19, what you would find if you were to receive their 2023 franchise disclosure document. So Hannah, the floor is yours.
I want to thank you first for kind of setting the stage about what we can and cannot talk about. Yeah, I get that question a lot. Hey, first call, how soon am I going to make my return on investment? And I'm like, no, I don't know. Honestly, we're in the direct sales arena, right? And that's so important with our brand. This isn't a McDonald's, right? Where they can tell you within 1/10 of a percentage, what the traffic is going to be for those locations. So that's where I think having the conversation about what this model is and what your role would be is really important, and in any type of home services space as well, because we are in the direct sales arena. It's so much more about you than it is about us. But we do have some financial performance data that we can share with you that is in our item 19. I love our item 19. It's very robust. This past year, because of our software capabilities, we are now able to disclose average transaction amounts, closing ratios, margins. We disclose averages for everybody that's been in the system in 2022. And then we also go into more detail by separating it by tenure. So you'll see representations for anyone who's been in business for 1 year, 2 years, and then 3 years plus. So if you look at our averages across everybody, average revenue last year was about 600,000 with a high of just shy of 3 million. That's a showroom owner that we have in Raleigh, North Carolina with full operating staff. He's been in business for a long time. Average profit margin is about 56.1%. Average transaction amounts are just shy of $4,000 at $3,800. And then again, as it gets more granular, you kind of understand, okay, how does this grow? So first full year of business, our averages are right at about 312,000 in revenue. Margins are still high, about 53%. It's once you get to 37 months and beyond in business where you really see this big jump. Once you reach month 37 and beyond in business, our averages go up to 757,000. With a high of, again, that 3 million. So highly scalable, can be highly profitable depending on the owner that's put into place, of course. But yeah, really robust item 19 that, again, a candidate will be able to validate with our owners when talking to them about if this is the right opportunity for them to move forward with.
Yeah, I love your item 19 as well. I tend to only present companies that have a great item 19 like yours. And I love that you share those profit margins, very impressive profit margins, average over 50%. I think you've got some owners actually over 60, 65% profit margins, right?
Yeah, and that definitely, and through this conversation with a candidate, we can talk about why is that? Like, how do they get to a 60%? And it really ends up being more about, okay, where did that customer come from? A big piece of our marketing strategy, especially in the beginning and ongoing, but especially in the beginning, is going to be just leveraging relationships that you've already built in the community and building relationships with those businesses within your area that have a revolving door of your ideal customer, right? So think window replacement companies, realtors, interior designers. The type of customer that you get from a referral is less likely to price shop you, right? Because they trust you already. They have a heightened level of trust for you. They didn't just find you online. You usually get a higher margin, a higher average transaction amount. So those owners that have listened to us and are really focusing on the strategies that we tell them is most profitable, you'll get the higher average transaction amounts and closing ratios. We just see it, in numbers that they're getting those margins.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned earlier when you were talking about the item 19, I'm glad you mentioned that you have really two models here. You've got the home-based model, and then you do have the opportunity to scale up into a full retail showroom. What would you say, and it's okay if you don't have this number because this is another curveball here, but off the top of your head, what percentage of your franchise owners would you say have actually scaled up to that retail showroom?
So there's actually two different executive models that we have. So let's kind of talk about that first. So we have the full retail showroom location, which full staff operating hours. There's, it's not just by appointment, it's open, during the day. And I would say that's about 12% of our owners have moved to a full retail showroom. Then there's like this middle ground where our owners are moving out of their home and they're now renting an office space, and they do now have employees. So maybe they have an office manager, maybe they have a salesperson, possibly a full-time installer as well. That would be a larger percentage of the owners that tend to go more semi-passive or more of that executive model, is they're renting that office space. They're not bringing customers to that location, but now they've grown out of their home. So we kind of have three models. The soonest I've seen someone transition to a full retail showroom, though, was tail end of year 2. We had a guy in Apollo Beach, Florida that did that. Okay,
good. So let's talk a little bit about ownership type. And this is something that is a very common conversation that I have with my clients as well. And that is the difference between owner operator. There's typically, and this is another educational moment for those listening, there's typically 3 different types of ownership that we talk about in my conversation with you as a candidate. Number 1 is owner operator. This is someone who's very hands-on, running the day-to-day business. Then there is semi-passive at onset. These are businesses that from the moment you sign your agreement, finish your training, and get open for business, you can have a manager running the business for you, and you're involved maybe 15 hours or so per week, or maybe less. And then there is semi-passive after 1 year. There are those concepts out there that really want you to be hands-on that first year to make sure that you have ramped up in a strong way before you step back and let a manager take the business and run with it for you. So talk with us a little bit about your preferred ownership style with Got You Covered.
So definitely owner operator in the very beginning, at least for the first year. And then there is that opportunity to recapitalize the proceeds of your home-based owner operator business into more of an executive or semi-passive option. And again, that can look like a couple different things, right? Opening the full showroom, or maybe renting an office space and now hiring a salesperson or a manager. There is this confusion, and I've seen this. It's become more apparent in the last couple of years that people say, okay, I don't want to quit my job, but I want to start something, and I'm going to wait until it ramps up enough to replace my income, and then I'll jump ship. And you kind of have to put that into perspective of, okay, let's really think about this. How do you get full-time results from part-time work? How does that ever happen? Unless you're set up with a serious system that will allow you to come in semi-passive right away, which will tend to be a larger investment, right? You can probably do that, but with a home-based option like us, we're not going to allow that because we don't see it. It never works. It never gets off the ground. You never have enough skin in the game, right, to really move it into replacing an executive salary.
Mm-hmm. So, correct me if I'm wrong, I was thinking that I had heard in a previous conversation that if you have a really strong candidate come to you who's had previous business experience, they're, maybe even a previous franchise owner, do you allow any flexibility in that passive at onset versus owner operator for the first year? Or are you pretty firm on that you really require people, regardless of their business background, to be owner operator in the beginning?
I'm really glad you brought this up, actually. So we are open to that conversation with the right person. The fact of the matter will still be, though, someone needs to run it full time, whether it's you or whether it's someone you hire. Like, someone does need to dedicate full-time hours. So we're open to that as an option. My ideal scenario for that would be maybe bring in someone that has a little bit of ownership, right? Maybe it's a guy, he has a really nice high-powered job, but his brother-in-law just got laid off or something, and he doesn't want to go back to corporate America. Maybe make it more of a family business. I like that idea. I think it's really important, especially with our model and the way you build this business, is whoever is going to be the face is motivated not to just quit, right? Like, that's the issue. You don't want to just have someone that's working 6 months. Oh, I found something better, I'm going to go somewhere else. So getting that skin in the game, I think, would be really important. But we're open to that conversation with the right person who's well capitalized enough. Yes. But thinking back historically, majority of our owners have been owner operator from the beginning, and then transitioned into something later.
Yeah. Okay, great. So let's talk a little bit about day in the life. I want to know how your business runs on a day-to-day business, from client acquisition to the in-home consult or in-office consultation to the picking out of the design, the ordering of the inventory, the installation. Can you kind of just walk us through that part of the business?
Sure. And this definitely changes and evolves, right, as their business matures too. But in the very beginning, what they're doing is they've already gone through training, right? And now they're launching their marketing strategies online or direct mail. They're paying or investing in marketing strategies. That doesn't really take a lot of their time because all those channels are in place already, right? So you're working to build that online presence and getting out there in your community. The time that is really spent in the beginning, from our owner's perspective, is going to be on product knowledge. That's the biggest learning curve with our business, is just product knowledge, ton of options that you can provide. And then just getting connected in your community, joining the Chamber of Commerce, joining the BNI group, starting to build those relationships with, again, those business owners that have a revolving door of your ideal customer that you can leverage and build that mutually beneficial relationship. So they're working on that, and then they're going to start to schedule appointments. We do have a call center that can schedule appointments for them. We also have an online scheduling widget they can use to schedule their appointments, or maybe they've just answered their phone and they're scheduling their own appointment. They would schedule it through our software. It syncs directly with their calendar. There's text invites that go out letting the customer know about the appointment. Our owner is going to pre-qualify their customer prior to the appointment. They're going to ask some questions that we train them on. What's your budget? How many windows? Do you have any idea on options that you're interested in? a lot of the times the customer is going to say, I don't know, my blind that I'm looking at that's been here for 30 years is kind of hanging by its last leg. And we repainted this room and now the brown blinds don't really go anymore and they don't block the light. I don't know. So really understanding the solution, the problem is really important. So is it like control, energy efficiency, privacy concerns, and understanding that before the appointment, but also leveraging some of our software tools. So we have a platform called Gotcha Inspired. So it's kind of like a Pinterest that our owners can send out to their customer prior to the appointment. The customer will click on this link. It's specific to them. It's going to generate them a profile. And now they have access to about 1,700 different options and actual photos of projects from our owners, from our vendors. They can sort by room, so bedroom, bathroom, office, kitchen. And as they're looking through these pictures, if they like anything, they can add it to their folder. What's really nice is our owners will get an email notification letting them know, hey, John Smith has added a new picture to their folder. So they can kind of go in there and say, oh, this is what they gravitate towards. So then you can use that information, leverage that information when you go on the appointment. You'll then arrive to the appointment. Typically, you're walking into the home with just your tablet. You're reviewing their home. You're understanding more about their style and budget. The only heavy lifting our owners are doing is measuring windows. So they're going to measure some windows and put those measurements into their computer. Our software has a lot of checks and balances. So if there's a product that does not fit a specific opening, it's going to flag it, not even show up as an option that our owners can quote right there in the home. They're maybe looking again for those Googles and those Alexas. Hey, let's talk about smart home integration. I see you have an outside deck. It looks kind of, dusty. Do you guys use it? Oh, the sun kills you at certain times during the year. Let's talk about solutions for that. Once they have a good idea of what the problem is that they're solving, they'll go out to their vehicle and they'll typically bring 1 or 2 sample books in. They'll get a very robust sample kit with our investment. And it's still such a touch and feel nature to this business. Even though you can show things virtually, you can take pictures of windows and show what it would look like. There's 5 different shades of white. Like people still need to see it. So you'll bring in some samples, say, hey, I think this would be a really good option for your problem. Your customer is going to decide on what they're interested in. You're able to quote it and price it out right there at the time of appointment. Your goal would be to collect a deposit that covers the cost of your goods. 50% is standard. Some of our owners have moved to 70 or 100% upfront, not getting any pushback, but 50% deposit is standard. Submit to be ordered and manufactured with our manufacturers. They'll wait for it to be delivered. And then once it's delivered, they're going to schedule a third-party installer. We highly recommend that our owners are out on those install jobs, doing a final walkthrough, making sure everything looks great, and then collecting the final payment at that time.
Do you help the owners?
Repeat it.
Yeah, repeat over and over again. Yeah. Over and over again. Do you help the owners find those local installers?
We do. We have large lists of installers, especially with the commercial work that our corporate office has done with the Verizons. We have a nice network. And then also our vendors, relationships that we've built. And then there are vendor reps in people's territories that help us find installers as well. Our owner still needs to interview them, verify they have insurance, probably get some references, but we can help them to find that third-party installer.
Yeah, great. What's the average ticket price?
$3,800 is our average transaction amount.
Okay, great. And, within 10 minutes of where I live, I can drive in any direction and I can find massive apartment communities being built right now. I can find huge commercial properties being built right now in any direction that I get in my car and drive. So do you find your more savvy franchise owners really kind of targeting that type of client, going to a developer and saying, hey, you're building a 18 unit commercial building here, let me provide all of the window treatments for your building? Does that happen?
It does. Again, the majority of our revenue is residential, and there's a reason for this. The reason is your margins are much higher on the residential side. Okay. And a lot of the times with commercial, you don't get paid right away. So you have to wait till it's been installed. So there tends to be, our owners tend to kind of lean more towards the residential side just because it's an easy sale, right? There's no blueprint reading or anything like that. But we have an owner in Wisconsin that just secured a $750,000 Hilton job. Like he does a lot of commercial. What I see is more popular with our owners is boutique commercial. So maybe a small school or a dental office where you would service it very similar to residential. If they're going to get into large scale commercial, we do have a commercial co-op program that they can leverage. We have a commercial team at our headquarters that can help with the bidding process, because there's all these little things that go into commercial, right? So help with the bidding process, bonding and insurance that may be needed to be provided, all of those types of things. We can come in and help them with those projects. But yeah, I mean, the volume of business goes up, but those margins tend to be a little bit lower with commercial, but you sell a lot more.
Yeah, over the years, I've had the misfortune of having to live in an apartment from time to time in various places, and I know every time I've moved into an apartment, there's already window, treatments there. So it seems again like the savvy business owner or franchise owner would be approaching these 100-unit apartment complexes that are being built and securing the contract to do the treatments in every one of those apartments. And so you're right. I've watched your video a few dozen times now, your kind of franchise sales pitch video, and windows are everywhere. They really are. Everywhere that you can find a window, you can find an opportunity to be successful in this business.
Exactly. Look around.
Yeah. Yeah.
Every window needs to be covered.
Exactly.
And we got you covered.
We got you covered. Yeah. So tell me a little bit about your ideal candidate. Who are you? What kind of person are you hoping that I'll send to you?
We're really looking for somebody. We don't look, there's misconceptions that we look for any type of design experience, and that's not true. We're about 50-50 male to female owned. So I don't care if you're a male or a female. Actually, 6 of our top 10 owners are sole male owners. Just kind of a quick nugget there. But really what I look for is someone who is good at connecting with people, because what is really important with this business is the relationship that you're going to be building with your customer, and then also with your referral partners in your market. People buy from who they like, and people refer to who they like. So it's so much more important that you're likable, which it's hard to train someone to be likable, right? We can train someone on business and product, but it's harder to train people to be likable. So if you feel comfortable in building relationships with people, and that you can provide a really good solution to a problem, I definitely want to talk to you. Sales and marketing backgrounds are just kind of a nice synergy. You kind of get it, right? If you've been in that sales and marketing background, that you have to build a relationship and how important it is to nurture those. But we have owners from all different experience levels and backgrounds. I have a lady in Ohio, has a PhD in organic chemistry, spent her entire career in a lab, and she just followed the plan, and she does exceptionally well. So again, just being comfortable getting involved in your community, I would say is the number one thing that I would look for.
Yeah, it's a great segue into the next thing that I hear often as I'm speaking with candidates. There's this misconception out there, and I think it's because people are so programmed to think job interview experience, what my resume shows, etc. So whenever you begin talking with them about franchising, and we'll just choose the window treatment industry, somebody can come in and say, I've worked in a lab for 30 years, or I'm a supply chain manager, or I've been in the Army, or I'm a nurse. I know nothing about window treatments, nothing about design, nothing about any of this. How can I be successful as a franchise owner? It really comes down to the training that you receive. And I have to remind people frequently that franchisors are looking for people who will work on the business and not in the business. They're not looking for someone who is an expert at window treatments. They're looking for someone who can build a very successful business with strong margins and cash flow. So talk with us a little bit about the training, and be as specific as you can. And when someone signs the franchise agreement, typically the very next thing that happens is they're going to get scheduled for training. What does that training program look like?
Sure. And just to kind of piggyback off what you said, I love when there's no experience, because then we don't have to train you out of bad habits, right? If you've done this before, then you're kind of set in your ways, and then it's trying to train you out of what not to do. If you've never done this before, we just tell you what to do, right? And that's the reason why you're buying into a franchise. And it's kind of funny that you say this too, that we're looking for business owners and not blind salespeople, because that's what I say during my initial presentation is this training is not just a week of how to sell blinds. There's reporting involved. There's understanding your strengths, your weaknesses, like how do we harness and pivot those to build a very successful and profitable business that's fitting your needs and what you're looking to get out of business. So what this looks like is they're going to sign a franchise agreement. They're going to fund their franchise. Once that happens, we're going to begin to start the onboarding process. Onboarding is going to last at least 3 weeks, and they'll be assigned an onboarding specialist from our team There's a full checklist of things that we want them to complete, some online trainings that they'll go through with a trainees system that we have. And we want to make sure their business is ready to launch immediately after training. So they're going to start looking at their competition. They're going to, get their emails all set up, all that stuff that needs to be done. They're then going to come to our training, which is a week long. Initial training is a week. It's in Denver. That's where we're headquartered. It's a really beautiful training facility with a classroom style room connected to a product room. They can touch and feel the options that they'll be presenting to their customers. And we're going to train them on everything, technology. We're going to train them on marketing. Of course, there's some product there, understanding how they're applied to the window, kind of giving that game plan of what to do when you leave. It's a launching pad, right? We can't cover everything, but it's a launching pad to get out there and start your business. After you've trained with us for a week, they're going to go back home and they're going to have additional training with Gotcha Covered franchisor in their home market. So additional training on our software. There are some success manager calls that are set up. This is 8-week call series where you're meeting with a success manager once a week, where they're saying, okay, how was last week? What's the game plan for next week? Let's make sure that you're growing and you're launching correctly. They'll also have some additional training with our vendor reps. So they'll have about a week of vendor rep training where all of our vendor reps are going to meet with our owners, train them more on the features and benefits of their product lines and what they offer. It's really nice to have that local level of support because that vendor rep is an ongoing support for you. And we've even had vendor reps go on like initial appointments with our owners before. We have really strong relationships with them. They're going to continue to run their business with some more check-in calls. There's like rookie roundtables that we do where once a month it's every owner that's been in business less than a year is meeting and sharing success stories, maybe struggles, business development webinars we do. But they're going to continue to grow and launch their business for about 3 to 6 months. After those 3 to 6 months, we invite them back to Denver again for what we call advanced training. I love advanced training because it really accelerates you through the learning curve. Initial training, you don't even know what to ask. You're just absorbing information, right? When you come back for advanced training, you've been out there in your field, you've been on appointments, you've made some sales, so you can really come and ask those targeted questions. It's a larger class. It's everyone who's been in business the last 6 months. So maybe one of our owners is going to do a home show next week, but there's 3 owners in this class that have already done one. They can kind of hear what are some things I should focus on or what should I do. And then we also fly up a franchisee that had a first-year sales record. They sold $600,000 in their first 8 months in business. We fly them up and they do a presentation to everyone in our advanced training class. How did we get here? What did we do? What should you be doing as well? And then there's always ongoing trainings that we offer too, but that would be that's the core training is initial training with us, training with the vendors and ongoing in their market, and then coming back 6 months later for an advanced training course.
Okay, good. Very comprehensive. It's love it. You're certainly setting people up for success with that level of training. So one of the things that I get asked pretty frequently is why a franchise? Why can't I just go start a business on my own? I could go start a window treatment, curtains, blinds business, go grab some stuff at Lowe's or Home Depot and run an ad online on Facebook or something and just start my business. And that's when I have to really explain to people that with a franchise, you're basically getting a business in a box. You are getting a brand name that is already an established, recognized brand name. You are getting a proof of concept that's already been proven, tested, tried, replicated many times over. You're getting systems and processes and products and services that already work. You don't have to go through all of the trial and error and the costly mistakes. You're just given this business in a box. And we've talked about so much already on this podcast about what all is included in that box. But I want to talk a little bit about the ongoing support. Training is over, the business is up and running. So what kind of ongoing support do you provide to your franchise owners? And I'm really thinking more along the lines of marketing, lead generation, anything along those lines, and then anything else you'd like to throw in the box with that.
Yeah, sure. And I think one thing that's really important to understand when people say, hey, why can't I do this myself? You also have to think about buying power, right? We did $58 million in sales last year. And that's why we have so many different vendors that we can source from and have really competitive pricing across all these different vendors, where a mom and pop, or if you were to do this on your own, you have to funnel all of your jobs to one vendor, and that limits you in the type of customer that you're going to be able to acquire anyway, because you're very limited in your product selection. But yeah, so ongoing support is very important. And I think, in my opinion, if I was exploring a franchise and just being in this space, there's two things that I would focus on when talking to a franchisor, and it's how are you going to support me after I join? Because I'm going to support you very much through this discovery process, right? You have to make sure that continues once you actually join the system. So asking those questions is really important when you're going through this discovery process. And then how robust is the marketing, right? How do I get my leads? So ongoing support is going to look like a couple different things. There's a lot of ways for our owners to communicate with other franchise owners within their area across the country, understanding best practices, what's working, what's not in different areas, and ways to have that communication channel be open. So there's a Facebook page that our owners are a part of where people will post pictures of windows. Hey, I'm trying to figure out a solution for this option. Has anyone done something for this window? And people will start to put pictures up, or I'm going to wrap my vehicle. Here are my 3 options. What do you think? Or what have you seen in your market that's worked really well? So I think leveraging the relationships in the community of just the franchise community is really important, but there's also going to be ongoing support with us. So in terms of marketing, we have a marketing director. She has an assistant in-house that's going to work with our owners to come up with an initial marketing plan. And then there are checks kind of ongoing. Hey, where are your leads coming from? Which lead sources are giving you the highest return on investment? We are also partnered with a larger firm called Scorpion. They're based out of LA. They're a franchise. They're prominent in the franchise space in terms of internet marketing. So our owners are also assigned a representative from Scorpion that's going to work with them on paid strategies, setting up their dashboard, understanding lead flow and what's working, what their cost of customer acquisition is online, those types of things as well. We do run national advertising campaigns. So we run all the retargeted ads on Google and Facebook. We post to our franchisees' Facebook pages 4 times a week. There's also newsletters that go out to all of the contacts in their software, past customers, current customers, any referral partners that they had as well. We send out requests for reviews, thank you cards. And then obviously they can always reach out to us if they have any questions. We have product specialists on staff. We have those success managers, of course. We have our vice president of franchise relations. Our president is always accessible too if they need any help as well. But communication definitely flows. Webinars that we'll do, business development webinars where we'll invite one owner that's really good at something to talk to everybody else. Those rookie roundtables where it's every owner that's been in business less than a year. Opening a lot of those, making sure those communication channels are flowing is very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. And I'm glad you touched on the value of the peer community. That's so important in, in business, being surrounded by successful people, but also being surrounded by struggling people who you see push through those struggles and become successful. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Well, we are going to wrap up with one more topic. We're going to circle back to money. We talked about the item 19 and the ROI earlier. Now we're going to talk about the initial investment. And I want to offer just another brief educational moment for those watching. When you are looking at a franchise concept, you're typically going to see what's called an investment range, a low number to a high number with a dash in between. And there are typically 3 components to an investment range. The first one is going to be the franchise fee. This is the fee that you pay the franchisor that gets you the box with all the good stuff inside. Then there is an additional amount for hard assets, equipment, supplies. If you are doing a brick and mortar, your furnishings, your build out, your equipment, all of these things are wrapped up in that investment range. And then there's also typically 3 to 6, maybe even 9 or 12 months of operating capital that are built into that investment range also to make sure that you have enough funds going forward to really market and build your business effectively. So, Hannah, I'd like for you to share with us a little bit about the investment range for Gotcha Covered.
Sure. So we're still considered low cost. Anything under 150,000, right, is considered a low cost opportunity. Our range is from 100 to 122. So our franchise fee is $69,900, right? Buys you into the system, gets that business in a box. Our owners are then going to purchase a starter package from us. That's $17,500. That includes their computer, all of their samples, initial set of marketing material. There's a press release that's included with that, just letting the community know, hey, the new Gotcha Covered is now open for business. They'll also get 3 months plus the setup of our call center is included with that starter package. And then their hotel expenses for training are also included. They will also prepay their conference registration fee for the next conference that they'd be eligible to attend. This is a huge conference. We're a part of the 5-star franchising platform. So it's a 5-star franchising platform conference where everyone gets together, all the 6 brands under the umbrella, and you're meeting other business owners and a lot of great topics during that. But our owners would prepay for their conference registration. So the total that they give Gotcha Covered to launch their business is $88,400. Like that's what they give to us. The rest of the investment is business setup, so insurance, phone line, right? Also their initial marketing expense. We want them spending $15,000 over the first 6 months that they're in business and marketing and advertising as well. And then obviously there's those ranges, but all of that will get you right there between $100,000 and $122,000.
Yeah. All right. Yours is one of those concepts where I just love showing the economics, the investment, the item 19. It just looks beautiful side by side, and it really is a tremendous opportunity. So this has been great. And I got to tell you, I have probably 3 or 4 or 5 other window treatment concepts in my inventory, but Gotcha Covered is the first one on the list for me. It's the one that I always present. Just for a lot of reasons, but because of those economics are so attractive for the aspiring business owner. So, Hannah, this has been great. Thank you so much for being here with me. I cannot wait to get this published and pushed out to my audience. But I'm going to let you wrap it up. If there's any final parting words that you would like to say to the audience, I'm going to let you have the final word.
I would just like to say that I understand that you are not going to approach William asking for help to open a custom window treatment business, right? And that's why we say that we're the best opportunity you've never thought of, because no one grows up thinking they're going to start a window treatment business. But it's more about what are you looking to get out of business, right? The 2 things people find most attractive about our model is the lifestyle flexibility and the financial potential. I'm really excited to work with anyone that's interested, obviously, in this brand and making sure it's a mutually beneficial fit. Obviously, if you're working with William, rely on him. He has a very extensive background in franchising, and he won't steer you wrong. So definitely leverage his expertise as well. And it's been great to be a part of this podcast. And I'm really excited to continue to work with you, William, and the sky's the limit.
Yes, absolutely. And all of you who are watching who can't wait to have a conversation with Hannah or her counterpart, Lori at Gotcha Covered, you'll find instructions for taking the next steps down in the description of the podcast or the description in the video here on YouTube. And you've also seen some things pop up on the screen as we have gone through here with instructions on how to take those next steps. And I will be happy to pre-qualifying you and get you introduced to Hannah and help make your wildest dreams of business ownership come true. Thank you, Hannah. It's been great. I appreciate being in business with you and a partner with you in this space.
Awesome. Thanks, William.
You're welcome. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Quantum Business Briefs. I want to wrap up just by telling you a little bit about our sponsor, Quantum Franchise Group. We are a full-service franchise brokerage, and much the same way that a real estate brokerage helps an aspiring homeowner to find the perfect home, we help aspiring business owners or even experienced business owners to find the perfect franchise opportunity. We take an integrity-first approach. We are not in the sales business. We are in the relationship business, and we're committed to putting your needs first and helping you find the opportunity that is the absolute best fit for you. So if you'd like to connect, we'd love to work with you. Everything that we do at no cost to you. You can learn more about us at quantumfranchisegroup.com, or you can simply text the word freedom to 815-885-5475, and that'll begin an initial conversation. Thanks again for being here today. I hope you have an amazing today, an amazing tomorrow, and an even better day after that. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Quantum Business Briefs podcast. If you'd like to be a guest on our show, text the word podcast to 815-885-5475. We'll see you next time, but for now, be well, do good, and make it an amazing day. Bye.